The hospital stood at the far edge of the city, where the streetlights stopped working and even the air felt heavier. Its walls were cracked and stained by decades of rain, smoke, and neglect, as if the building itself had been slowly decaying from the inside. Broken windows stared outward like empty eyes, some boarded shut, others completely shattered. People avoided this place instinctively. Cars slowed down only for a moment before speeding past, and pedestrians crossed the street without realizing why. The hospital hadn't closed gradually, it had been abandoned suddenly, overnight. No official explanation was ever given. Only rumors remained. Rumors that the doors had been locked from the inside, and that whatever happened here was never meant to leave. When the main doors finally opened, the sound of rusted metal echoed far too loudly through the empty entrance hall. The smell hit immediately, old disinfectant mixed with mold, dust, and something sour that didn't belong in any hospital. The floor was covered in broken glass, scattered papers, and faded medical charts that had turned yellow with time. Signs were still mounted on the walls, pointing toward wards and emergency exits, frozen in a moment that never ended. It felt wrong, like stepping into a place that expected people to return at any second. Every footstep echoed too clearly, bouncing down corridors that had been silent for years, as if the building itself was listening. The corridors stretched endlessly, splitting into darker hallways where the light barely reached. Abandoned wheelchairs stood motionless, their rubber handles cracked and peeling. Hospital beds with rusted frames blocked passages as if they had been pushed aside in a hurry. Curtains hung half-torn, swaying slightly even though there was no wind. Somewhere deep within the building, a faint whisper drifted through the halls. Too quiet to understand, but too deliberate to ignore. When you stopped to listen, holding your breath, the sound vanished completely. The silence that followed felt intentional, as though the hospital had decided to wait for your attention before speaking again. The patient rooms were worse than the corridors. In many of them, beds remained positioned neatly against the walls, their mattresses torn open and stained beyond recognition. Deep scratches covered the paint, frantic marks clawed into the walls at uneven heights, as if someone had tried desperately to escape. On a small bedside table lay a patient identification card, its ink almost completely faded. One detail remained clear: the admission date. It was just days before the hospital shut down. There was no discharge date. As you moved through the room, the thin curtains brushed softly against each other, producing a sound disturbingly similar to breathing. The operating room felt colder than the rest of the building, as though the temperature itself had been preserved. The surgical table stood tilted at an unnatural angle, frozen in the middle of a procedure that never ended. Overhead lights dangled loosely, their cracked glass reflecting distorted shapes across the walls. Dark stains marked the floor beneath the table, too deeply soaked to be washed away by time. Surgical instruments lay scattered, some abandoned hastily, others placed neatly as if waiting to be used. Then the whisper returned. This time it was closer, clearer, close enough to feel like it came from just behind your shoulder. But when you turned around, the room was empty. The stairwell leading to the upper floors was completely dark. Each step creaked loudly beneath your weight, the sound traveling upward and downward, returning as a distorted echo. The air felt thick, pressing against your chest. Somewhere above, a door closed slowly, softly. Not slammed, not forced, just closed. No footsteps followed, no movement. Logic tried to explain it away, but fear moved faster than reason. The unsettling certainty grew stronger with every step. Whatever remained in this building knew exactly where you were. Deep within the hospital was the old psychiatric wing. Heavy doors reinforced with metal bars lined the hallway. Small rooms without windows sat sealed behind thick locks. The walls were covered in drawings, crude faces without eyes, spirals that repeated endlessly, and phrases scratched deep into the paint. Don't let them inside. One room stood open. In its center was a single chair facing the wall. Behind it, the wall was covered in fresh scratches. They were too sharp, too recent, to belong in a place abandoned for decades. The air here felt alive, tense, like something was waiting to be acknowledged. When the exit finally came into view, the hospital fell unnaturally silent. No dripping water, no whispers, no echoes, just a pressure building in your ears and the unmistakable sensation of being watched. The light began to fade, flickering weakly as you reached for the door. Just before everything went dark, a voice whispered clearly, softly, patiently, "Stay." No one who entered the hospital that night was ever seen again. The building still stands at the edge of the city, empty, silent, waiting,